Blaber, you
different
may
channel.
stick with your on-field decision.
Okay, he lost the ball, so this is the no cone.
Next on MLR Weekly, Chicago CEO/General Manager James English. Major League Rugby headlines and news by John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning. Opinions and predictions from Bryan of America's Rugby News. The Rugby Network Play of the Week. Picks of the week from the Rugby Odds, and the best damn recap in rugby history. Rugby Wrap-Up's MLR Weekly brought to you by Sheehy Auto Stores. It's easy at Sheehy. The Pig and Whistle, New York City, the world's best rugby pub. And Lean and Limber, stretching your way to a healthier lifestyle. To MLR Weekly as presented by Rugby Wrap-Up. Matt McCarthy in New York City. Thank you for joining us. It's much appreciated. We have a great show. We have Chicago CEO/General Manager James English. We also have Bryan of America's Rugby News. And we have John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning. But before we get to them, we have the best damn recap in rugby. So let's get to it. At Choctaw Stadium, the Friday night match in searing Texas heat pitted two scrappy puncher's chance teams against each other. Key postseason ramifications were at stake. An athletic freak of nature, Corey Daniel, not to be confused with Daniel Corey, got in the hunt DC on the board just over a minute in. But hooker Tommy Beckerman punched back for tri-prolific and playoff-bound Dallas. But Old Glory always goes toe-to-toe, and with two tries from Connor Buckley and one from Koi Nelligan, withstood wilting heat and the Jackals scoring while up a man late to win it at death via Koi Nelligan's second try of the match. Final score, 36-32, Old Glory. In a short Paul Revere ride from downtown Boston, New England, and Utah went at it in a sun-scorched Saturday matinee. The Hard Luck Warriors had the many Free Jack fans in attendance wicked f***ing afraid as their team had to battle Utah's Road Warriors the entire match. But Boston's new favorite son, hat-trick scoring Jed Melvin, and the silky smooth Jason Patros combined for 31 points as the reigning champions did what they needed to, despite barely being able to kick the ball out at the end. Final score, 36-27 FJs. At a sizzling SaberCat Stadium in Houston, Texas, a tooth-and-tooth battle between the league's newest and fiercest rivalry, the SaberCats and Seawolves did not disappoint. Lauritz Vandersky flashed some world-class skills as he sublimely squib-kicked while being tackled, and fellow Cat Davey Kutzer pounced on it for a spectacular try. In a tension-packed second half, Mac Mason and Tony Pulu showcased their kick-and-gather class with a sensational score of their own. But Kenny Nasangege went on the prowl and added to the Cats' lead. Another instant classic from Mac Mason, this time to Jade Stickling, had Houston fans gasping, but the locals held on in a thriller, 28-25 Houston. Rumor has it Broccoli Man and Rucky the Seawolf duked it out at the watch party in Tukwila. At American Legion Memorial Stadium in Charlotte, the Anthem were wearing Houston's practice uniforms in the hopes of getting that first win versus a back-and-forth Miami side. But the home team were down 7 points and a player just after 2 minutes via a penalty try from a David Still high tackle. Still's second yellow had Charlotte seeing red, and in a chaotic flash, Uruguayan Philippe Echeverry's throw it away in traffic pass somehow found Scottish Kiwi Nick Grigg, who scooted in for the Sharks. Miami's man advantage allowed them to take control as they kept their slim playoff chances alive, but failed to get the 4-try bonus point. Final score, 30-14 Miami. In Los Angeles, the snake-bit RFCLA were looking to tarnish the gold. And they had a 7-0 lead behind marvelous Matt Heaton, but there was hope for NOLA. Jordan Jackson hoped, that is, and he continued his excellent campaign with the tying try. Andrew Coe and Tesse Mone Tangawia exchanged tries to end the first 40, but it was a tale of two halves, and New Orleans absolutely dominated in the final 40 minutes and served further notice that they are for real. Final score, 38-21 NOLA. In the Windy City and dismissed Chicago head coach Sam Harris's blood in the water, the MLR's first ever Monday Night Rugby match had subplots galore, and veteran San Diego smelled an opportunity. But interim coach Rob Weber's Hounds and large Luke White looked to have the game's first score. But White was waffled in the corner by San Diego's scrum half, Connor Tupai. Later, however, Julian Dominguez handled the top 5 worst pass ever for a try. The Legion then flashed their swords and stabbed back via the immortal Ma'ananu. But this was Luke Carty redemption night, and the forgotten fly half made sure Dylan the Butcher Fawcett's try would stand up, slotting 4 penalty goals and adding top-notch strategic kicking. Final score, 19-16 Hounds in what could be a season-changing win for Chi-Town. We could use a break after that, and what better break to take than Rugby Morning's Coffee Break with John Fitzpatrick, calling in from the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. John, welcome back to MLR Weekly.
Okay, Matt, thank you for that. How about Week 16 in Major League Rugby? A little bit of everything. Friday night to Monday night, historic happenings here in Major League Rugby. We got to start on Friday night. DC does Dallas. Deep into the game, Old Glory DC decides not to kick for the points to tie it. Instead, they kick for the line out. Walk-off maul. How about Koi Nelligan dotting down for the game winner, his second try of the night. Old Glory DC, a big come from behind victory over Dallas. But Matt, fear not. How about the Dallas Jackals? They did clinch a spot in the Western Conference playoffs because later in Week 16, Utah needed 1 bonus point against the New England Free Jacks to stay alive. They did not get it, so Dallas, for the first time in franchise history, have qualified for the playoffs. Matt, what do you make of all of that?
Well, first off, the Dallas Jackals have earned their spot into the playoffs, regardless of what some of you people might out there be saying they backed in that way. No, they've earned it this year. They're a solid team. And they should be somebody that you don't want to play in the playoffs, like Old Glory DC. And I got to take my cap off to Koi Nelligan, who was a West Point guy whose deployment was deferred, like Colin Gross, his teammate. And he was a flanker at West Point. And here he is playing hooker on the pro level and scoring 2 tries, critical tries on the road in Dallas. Tough place to play, specifically because you don't know what line to touch it down on. And they get the W on the gutsy call. Kudos to both teams. Next.
Well, Matt, down in Houston, the SaberCats clinched the #1 spot in the Western Conference playoffs, courtesy of a 28-25 hard-fought victory over the Seattle Seawolves. Matt, Houston versus Seattle, is that the best rivalry in Major League Rugby?
I think so. I would have said New York, New England was a better rivalry, and we don't have that option, unfortunately. San Diego, Seattle is certainly up there because of their history playing against each other, especially in the finals. But man, this Houston team has really come around, and they've beaten Seattle twice now. You gotta like what's going on with both those teams, and you think it's a shame they're in the same conference. I think it's great, and I can't wait to see them play again, maybe in the playoffs for the 3rd time in the season. Next.
Well, Matt, I am John Fitzpatrick, not John Nash, so I can't go through all the playoff math permutations and all that stuff. But there is a lot to play for in Week 17, as some spots in the Eastern Conference are still being figured out. How about Anthem? They're still alive. Chicago's still alive. How about NOLA Gold? They host the New England Free Jacks. Get this. The Free Jacks do not have a lock on that top spot yet. NOLA Gold could play spoiler here and jump them. A lot to play for in Week 17. It should be a doozy of a weekend. What do you think?
Well, just a crazy ferocious second half by NOLA on the road in LA, and they are playing some tough ball, and they're doing it without Vito, who's still nursing that ankle injury, but they think they'll get him back for the playoffs, and that's where that 2-week layover between the end of the regular season and the start of the playoffs really is beneficial for at least the NOLA Gold in that sense. But man, this is what you want. This is what you want in a professional league, and this is what keeps the fans all engaged. Mathematical possibilities, maybe a stretch of the imagination, but they are mathematical possibilities for teams to qualify. You got to believe that Old Glory and NOLA, in control of their own destiny, will lock up those playoff spots. And now Chicago, with their big victory on Monday night over San Diego, with the new coach stepping in, it's just everything is up in the air, and that's great for the sport. Next.
Man, that's all I got. I'm looking forward to week 17. Let's go, baby.
All right. Well, thank you, John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning. Folks, you got to check out that newsletter. It gives you everything you need to know about rugby every day, every morning. And on that note, we'll take a quick break.
Digs like a demented mole there.
Need a great price on a new vehicle? Sheehy makes it easy. Easy Price shows you our lowest prices on the Mid-Atlantic's largest selection. Find your best price online or at any of our 31 dealerships.
It's easy at Sheehy. Sheehy.com.
You need your cleats? You need them tomorrow? If you order today by 3 p.m. New York time or noon LA time, they can have them to you tomorrow. Young, old, male, female, if you're playing on turf, if you're playing on grass, if you're playing in the rain, you're playing in the heat, they've got you covered. RugbyNow.com. Go there now. And we are back with the CEO/general manager of the Chicago Hounds, Mr. James English. James, welcome back to MLR Weekly.
Matt, always a pleasure. Good to see you.
James, it's been a piece of cake this season for you guys, especially the last week or so. Did you expect all of this?
I mean, you never expect this kind of stuff. We have always expected to have high aspirations this season, and we really we expected a lot more from what we've had and what we've got. We got a good win last night that we were really pleased with, and we think we're back on track and it's going to start building some momentum so that we hopefully peak at the right time of the season and get the playoffs running.
So let's go back before we come to the game, Monday night's game, first ever Monday night game in MLR history, and it lived up to the billing. But going back, in case fans don't know, if they're in a coma or living in a cave, Sam Harris, the head coach, we got the notice that he was dismissed or you're parting ways. How did it come about? Can you tell us what were the reasons?
We did decide to part ways. I think that we needed something different. Different isn't always better. Let's make that very clear. And there's a very good chance that we could be wrong on this, but we felt as though the squad needed a little bit of new energy and freshening up around its approach. And we've made a few minor changes, and Sam did a fantastic job. He was a real partner for me building this from the ground up. But we mutually decided that it was a time for something different.
So it was the old mutual decision thing.
Yeah, look, Sam was the first person to kind of go out there and say that he probably didn't do a good enough job at maximising the potential of the squad. And look, we invested a lot of time and effort into building this squad this year. We were really confident it's a squad that can and should compete at the top level. We haven't really done that up until this point of the year. But look, this is all about peaking at the right time. You have to make playoffs, and then you need to get some big wins around there. And we felt that there was still time that we could influence the outcome of that kind of further down the road.
In the beginning of the season, Sam came on, and it was after the decision to put Billy Meeks, one of the better centers in the league, at number 10. What was your feeling on that move?
I think it's just a very small decision in a huge journey that we've been on this year, over what are we at, 13 games. Sam really believed that Billy had the skill set to execute in that position and thought it was a great way of trying to get the most out of the players that we had. Sam was the first person to show that to kind of stand up and say that didn't work, and we pivoted and we went in a different direction. And you see, even at this point now, Luke Carty made his first start at 10 last night and did a fantastic job. So, Look, we're always trying new things, and we'll never stop trying. And you've got to learn from your mistakes. And I think that looking back, Sam will be the first to admit that didn't work. But you've got to try these things. My opinion at the time was that it probably wasn't the best choice, but I backed Sam until you can't, and that's why one of the many reasons, I guess. I wouldn't even put that down to one of the reasons that we parted ways. I think there was a lot more going on there towards the end of the season that we wanted to address.
And this is no knock on Billy Meeks, so I just want to make that perfectly clear. But it was, it did, and as fans and pundits, we don't have inside information. We don't know about injuries. We don't know about all the intangibles that go on in a locker room. So all we are left to do is speculate. But it was a little bit of a head scratcher. But the guy's an athlete and he's a professional rugby player. So, hey, it's like a different style of rugby, perhaps. But anyway.
Yeah. And look, what I'd emphasise there is that certainly wasn't the reason why we came to this decision. That was just one of many decisions that we've made over this season that we pivoted from and we learned from.
So it wasn't one particular thing. It was a series of things that just came together, and it didn't help that you weren't winning.
Yeah, I mean, we went five game losing streak after stringing a few wins together, and in the aligned opinion of the board and myself, that wasn't probably where we thought we should be, and it wasn't the way around the potential of the squad, and we needed something different. But like I said, different isn't always better, and there's every chance that someone could look at the end of the season and say you were wrong in that decision.
Well, going by Monday night's match, it certainly didn't have an adverse effect on the team because you went out and beat perennial power San Diego in arguably the most pivotal game in this young franchise's history. And you were quarterbacked by the forgotten guy, Luke Carty, who hit 4 penalty goals in that crucial game. But I want to ask you, I want to go back to the beginning of the game. How many years off your life did you lose when Luke White's try was overruled?
It's a tough one to talk about, right? I mean, they always say the most dangerous time to play a team when they're just split ways from their head coach. And I think that works across a lot of different sports. So we're not going to get too excited. It was a good performance. We were pretty happy with it. We were happy to get the win more than anything. We created a lot of chances that we didn't capitalise upon. There was that Luke White moment. There was a moment where Dylan Fawcett was just pushed into touching the corner as well. And we definitely had 2 or 3 other chances that we didn't capitalise upon. But we are creating chances and putting ourselves in good positions. And I think that one of the big things we'll be working on over the next few weeks is how we convert more of that pressure into points.
So at this point, you're just playing out the string. You don't know necessarily if Rob will be back as the head coach. He's the interim coach now.
Look, Rob's doing a great job, as did Sam. He's taken a slightly different approach. And we'll see whether or not we were right or wrong on this.
Okay, I want to change gears a little bit because this kind of affects you front and center. What is your take on the 2-week downtime or break after the regular season for the international test window and then the playoffs started?
I mean, it is what it is. We can, there was times back in the early days where we just lost the internationals for big MLR games, and we had to deal with that then. And we can deal with that now. We've got a great opportunity where we host in USA versus Romania in Chicago. We'll be using that to keep building like Dogtown and our fan base and give them an experience of international rugby, and we'll fully support that. We have obviously the internationals from our squad involved. It's been a great opportunity for the likes of Noah Brown, who's really impressed as a rookie this year, who's been called in to train with the squad. And then they'll go down and play DC. So look, is it ideal? No. It's part of rugby. It's part of how we've structured the league this year. Our boys will probably have a week off the first week and come back and train pretty hard in the second week. And giving them a little bit of opportunity to freshen up isn't the worst thing in the world. I'll support it. We deal with it, and we keep moving forward.
Are there any players on your current roster that have surprised you the most in a pleasant way?
Tons. I think we've had some players who have underperformed this year, and we've had a lot of players who have overperformed. And I think part of the coach's role is to get the most out of the players. And that's what we're kind of excited about at the moment. But you look at someone like a Noah Brown, who is involved with USA Sevens, a draft pick for us in the first round. He's still learning, but he's like a sponge, and he's learning really quickly, and he's got real X factor. There's other guys there who probably lacked a little bit of consistency last year, like Mac Jones, who have come on and done phenomenally this year. And look, you've got to credit someone like Luke Carty, who's had a few bit roles in the team this year at 15 who came on last night and got a man in the match performance playing at 10. So look, another guy I would say we've got to look at Bryce Campbell, who was didn't have his best year last year, but has probably been one of the standout 13s in the competition this year, and has rightly been rewarded with a callback with the USA team. So yeah, I think that the more we can get out of these players as we go to postseason, the better, and the more we'll benefit off the back of that. So it's been a challenging week, but an exciting one at the same time, and we're looking forward to go down to Anthem this weekend and see if we can back up the result from San Diego.
Well, at least you're not losing your hair over it. You still have that great hair, and
Well, I tell you what, I didn't have a grey hair when I started this job 2 years ago, and I've now got a full grey beard and grey hair as well, and I'll be booking a trip to Turkey for a hair transplant in no time, I'm sure.
Well, book me a seat on that plane.
Yeah, right. We get a double.
Exactly. Well, on that note, there's no better way to end the interview than on that note. We'll see you in Turkey. I want to thank Mr. James English, the CEO and General Manager of the Chicago Hounds.
Matt, always a pleasure. Appreciate your support.
And now your Major League Rugby Play of the Week, brought to you by the Rugby Network. Up in Quincy, Massachusetts, visiting Utah hasn't had much to cheer about this year, but they keep battling, and so does Michael Manson, who carried the ball on his back and gave all of New England agita in the process with his cool, collected calm as he bolted into the try-zone. In Dallas, Old Glory had multiple opportunities to succumb to playoff race pressure and the Jackals' relentless attack, but DC stayed close and opted to kick to the corner and go for the win rather than the tie. West Point grad Koikoi Nelligan made that the right choice with the game winner at death, which allowed OG owners Paul Sheehy and Chris Dunleavy to open their eyes and breathe again. In Chicago, Dylan the Butcher Fawcett scored yet another critical try, this time versus San Diego, as the Hounds held off the star-studded Legion and played exceptionally under duress. And the Rugby Network Play of the Week is Old Glory's gutsy choice / try at death, getting them that much closer to their second consecutive playoff berth. Now for the Major League Rugby Picks of the Week, courtesy of the Rugby Odds via WWE Hall of Famer turned rugby advocate John Bradshaw Layfield, King Gifte Belu, the inventor of words, and his pugnacious proxy, Stephen Lewis, the esteemed rugby executive and coach.
Nala has quietly put together a heck of a season, and they're one of the top-tier teams in Major League Rugby. They got the New England Free Jackals coming down to visit them, and they have been erratic at best, very inconsistent, don't look like the defending champions. Most weeks, there are times they do. Reese McDonald is a stud, by the way. But give me Nala. Forget the points. Nala's going to win this game.
As a proxy for Gift, he is also going for Nola because he likes all things Nola. Not just the colors, he just likes Nola. So he's going for Nola. I'm going to go for Houston. I've not been a fan of San Diego all year. I just feel they're not performing. I think Dad's Army there, with Ghetto and Nonu still playing, combined age 325. But Houston have been extremely consistent. They've got a sort of very, it's not particularly exciting rugby. Doesn't need to be. They're winning. It's professional sport. So I'm going to go with Houston on the road.
Hey, be sure to check out the critically acclaimed The Rugby Odds. It's a sports entertainment show that also has insightful opinions and exclusive highlights. Plus, you needn't know anything about anything to enjoy it.
I wouldn't like to be at the bottom of that.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street. This is the Rugby Odds, where an unlikely pundit panel of a wordsmith, a WWE legend, a rugby star, and a supermodel scour the globe, seeking best bets and bad behavior. Are you not entertained? Fans, you can tune into every match live on Flow Rugby. How do we know that? because we're on there all the time. And we're back with Mr. Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News. Always a pleasure to have you on MLR Weekly. Bryan, what caught your fancy this week?
Well, certainly a hot one across Major League Rugby, high temperatures, but also a bit historic. First ever Monday night game, and how about those Chicago Hounds and Luke Carty getting it done on primetime TV? That was quite the spectacle.
That was very cool, very cool. History being made. Who won, though, Bryan?
Well, I guess you could certainly argue that Mr. Carty won that match. He was a terrific first game, wearing the number 10 shirt this year. And, after that whole situation last week in Chicagoland, that's quite the story.
Yeah, back from exile, so to speak. But I beg to differ with you, Bryan. I think rugby won.
Well, that's an interesting point. I mean, who else has done Monday Night Rugby before? I mean, if it's going to work anywhere, it might actually work in the United States, since Monday Night Football is so ingrained in American sports. So maybe this is a thing moving forward. I don't know. It was certainly unexpected, and it was interesting.
I'm completely against it, because that means I have 2 less days to edit this program and get it out. So no way, man, unless I get some more manpower or woman power. I don't care what kind of power it is. No way. I'm voting. I'm going to be the guy on Reddit slamming it all the time. But it was exciting to watch. Let's see how smart you are about the upcoming stuff. Okay, we've got some picks for you, courtesy of the Rugby Odds. And the first one up is NOLA hosting New England. This is a good match. New England on the road, favored by 4 points.
I like the Free Jacks. I think they looked pretty good this past weekend against Utah. Jason Poitras is another just brilliant match out of him. So I'll take the Free Jacks in that game.
The Anthem hosting Chicago. Chicago minus 15 on the road versus the Anthem. Is this the new Chicago?
I think they could put some points on the board in this one. So, yeah, you got to back Chicago to get another W here.
So Utah hosting Dallas. Dallas on the road minus 3.
I just think that Utah is pretty much out of the picture at this point. So I'll take Dallas.
Then you've got Seattle at home minus 13 versus L.A. I feel the pain for L.A. already.
Yeah, I don't see L.A. Getting the victory in this one. They're still bringing us some highlight reel tries, so at least we got to give them some credit for that.
All right, what do you think of the final one? San Diego hosting Houston. Will Houston bring their players?
I don't think they'll be resting too many guys. I expect a fully competitive Houston side this weekend, and I expect they'll win.
All right, on that note, Bryan, last thought.
Here we are, business end of the season. A couple more, just kind of seeding spots to be decided, but now we can really kind of look at these rosters and start the conversation during this awkward kind of 2 weeks off, and get ready for those 3 games. Now the full quarterfinal, and maybe we'll see an upset. Wouldn't that be interesting in that first round? So here we go.
On that note, we are out of time. I want to thank Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News. I want to thank John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning and Mr. James English, the CEO/General Manager of the Chicago Hounds. And thank you for tuning in. Please check out our other shows, including the critically acclaimed The Rugby Odds. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Please sign up for our weekly newsletter. Tell your friends about us. And please join our American Red Cross blood donor team.